Hi, I'm Mark, and I joined pauseai as a volunteer last year. And I joined because I do think that AI is going to change the world very quickly. And there may only be a brief window for regular people like you and me to have some influence on what happens next. So, I must confess, I am using AI quite a lot at the moment. I'm finding many uses for it. But then I am someone who has always loved technology. There's me. So when I was a child, I had a disability. My legs and my arms and my hands were affected. And my parents, who are here in the audience today, got me two pieces of technology that really leveled the playing field. The first was that motorized wheelchair. Now I could move myself around, I could explore, and I could keep up. So, amazing. The second was an Apple IIgs. That Apple IIgs was an enabler in a different way. I could write stories, make digital drawings, build my own little games. And you might know that Steve Jobs once called the personal computer, or said it should be, a bicycle for the mind. Well, for me, maybe it was more of a wheelchair for the mind. A way of participating, creating, exploring. And that's what I want technology to be. A tool in human hands, something that does make life easier, but not just so that we can be lazy and sit around, so that we can take on bigger challenges and go further, experience more, and include more people. And I would love AI to be that kind of tool. Computers have come such a long way. My childhood computer came out of the box completely blank. You had to install the operating system first from floppy disks. And until you did that, all you saw was a blue screen and a blinking command line. Now, if you knew exactly what to type in, you could make that blue screen do things. And computer magazines have little programs you could copy in. But I did not have the patience for that. I just wanted to type something like, "Hello computer, draw a picture of a spaceship," and have it work. But of course, back then, what did you get? It had to be explained to me that the computer doesn't know anything by itself. It doesn't know what draw means, or picture means, or spaceship means. It only knows what it's been explicitly programmed to know. And a human somewhere at some point has to do that programming. The programmer needs to understand the task and break it down into precise step-by-step instructions like this. And what do those instructions mean? Well, those steps have been defined by someone at some point themselves in terms of precise step-by-step instructions. And that's how software, to my understanding, used to be made. Instructions on top of instructions on top of instructions. And over time, humanity was building up a tower of software with each new layer a contribution by a human of their understanding. And as a child, I imagine that over maybe hundreds and hundreds of years, we would keep slowly building up that tower until one day, maybe computers actually could do the sorts of things that I was seeing in science fiction. Maybe even have a conversation with you. But that seemed very, very, very far away. Now, as humans, thankfully, we do not need programming. I think you'll agree. I mean, yes, we are taught things. Parents and teachers give instructions. Sit up straight, eat your vegetables. But mostly, I would argue, we learn by doing, by playing, by trying, by failing, and by adjusting. No one ever taught you the exact muscle movements required to catch a ball. You practiced, and somehow your brain learned. Humans do not merely follow instructions. We learn from what works, or at least what seems to work. We adapt, and so we often depart from what we were taught. And I think that capacity to learn, rather than simply execute a program, was for a time the crucial difference between humans and machines. But then came artificial neural networks. These are connection machines simulated inside a computer. They're inspired by biological nervous systems, but they're not exactly the same as brains. Signals flow through the connections, and each connection has a strength, the strength of the connection, and that strength they call a weight. And those weights determine how the signals flow. Okay, so then who sets those weights? Who programs the weights? Amazingly, no one. So take character recognition as an example. The network, the neural network, sees a pattern of light and dark. Signals move through the connections, and a guess at what it's seeing comes out the other end. The weights start out random at first, so the guesses are terrible. But then the weights are adjusted slightly each time in the direction that makes the network less wrong. And on the screen you can see the connections light up as they're adjusted, light up in blue and green. Slight tweaks, slight adjustments. Repeat that many times and the guesses get better and better and better. And if we sat here and watched for half an hour, we would see this network get very accurate. But the point is, no one writes the rules for what makes an A and what makes a B. The skill is learned through experience. It's trying, it's failing, and it's adjusting. This is machine learning. And I think it's a big shift from software that is handcrafted to software that is grown. And we can point machine learning at many different problems by turning them into a guessing game. So, a bit of audience participation. Paris is the capital of France. So Paris is in... A bit louder, sorry, I couldn't hear. Or, we're guessing, we're trialing, we're failing, we're adjusting. Okay, another one for you. Tom is taller than Sam, and Sam is taller than Ben, so Tom is the... Fill in this visual blank. What's in that cutout area? Candles, so good. Okay. You can fill in those blanks. And I'd say you're using knowledge and you're using reasoning. So here's the thing. A big enough neural network can acquire knowledge and reasoning by learning and practicing filling in enough blanks. And that, to my understanding, is how we got ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and the others. Companies spent billions. They built huge neural networks with billions of connections. They trained them for months and months on as much data as they could get. Huge amounts of data. Books, scientific papers, photos, videos, court transcripts, open source code, songs, news articles, social media posts, advertising, scams, conspiracy theories, even online abuse, anything available. The best of us, the worst of us, and everything in between. So before we talk a bit more about what AI can do, I'd like to get a quick sense of the room. By a show of hands, how many of you have used an AI chatbot at least once to play around with? Okay. I'd say, yeah, a majority. And also hands up if you currently use one regularly. My hand would be up if I could. Yep. Now, have you ever used it for medical advice, even just to see, even if you don't rely on it? My hand would be up. What about legal advice? My hand would be up. What about gardening advice? Okay. And hands up if you've ever tried creating an image or a design with AI. Yeah, my hand would be up. What about creating software? Yeah, quite a few. And of those people, did you have a coding background before? Keep your hands. Had a coding background? Okay, maybe half. So some new software engineers in the audience, thanks to AI. Okay, that's super interesting. Look, here we are in 2026, and I am astonished by what AI could already do, what we've already got. This is a completely AI-generated video, and that car's not real, that water wasn't real, that plasticine isn't real, those people aren't real, the ocean's not real. And it wasn't computer animated by a graphic artist in a computer. It's completely fabricated. And I'm still astonished. This is a taxi with no one behind the wheel. And these carry real passengers through the streets of San Francisco every day. It sees the road, it predicts movement, and it chooses a path. And this happened yesterday. This was live streamed on YouTube yesterday, a demonstration, a humanoid robot sorting parcels. And it was live streaming for hours and hours as it did its monotonous task. I want to leave that running for ages, but as it's mesmerizing. But not a person in a suit. In biology, AI recently designed a tiny molecular machine for editing DNA. And it works, it already works in human cells in a petri dish, but surely in the future that's on the way to being real medicine. But every new capability surely has consequences. As AI gets better at software engineering, did I just skip over something? No, I don't think so. As AI gets better at software engineering, it's also getting better at finding the weak points in software. And that can be good. If you can find a vulnerability, you can fix it. But the same capability can also be used by an attacker. Quite recently, Anthropic announced a model called Claude Mythos. It was meant for defensive cybersecurity work, but reports say it's already identified thousands of serious bugs in software, and Anthropic, the company, judged it too dangerous for public release. But since then, there's been reports of unauthorized access anyway. This is AI on the battlefield in Ukraine. Drones can be flown remotely, but when the radio signal is jammed, AI keeps the drone tracking the target and striking the target. And recently, biosecurity experts tested AI chatbots with biological weapons questions. One scientist said that the chatbot responded with suggestions on how to make an already dangerous pathogen harder to treat. And then it gave advice about how to release it through a public transit weakness. Other transcripts described, the chatbot described how to spread biological material using a weather balloon. Creative. It tried to rank livestock pathogens by their economic damage. And it even came up with a novel toxin recipe. And AI is also accelerating its own development. Google's AlphaEvolve AI system found a faster way to do some of the maths inside Gemini. So that's the Google models helping speed up part of their model's own training process. The AI of today is already helping build the AI of tomorrow. So, how do you get a gauge on how fast things are moving? It's difficult, but one way is to ask a simple question. If a task takes a skilled human a certain amount of time on a computer, can an AI do that task at least half the time on its own without getting stuck? In 2019, the answer was yes, only for 3-second tasks. By 2023, 4-minute tasks. By late 2024, 40-minute tasks. By late 2025, 5 or 6 hours. By early 2026, this model's estimated to be able to do these 12-hour tasks. And super recently, though there's error bars around the estimate, a task reached 16, 17 hours on this measure. That means since 2023, this measure has doubled every 4 months. So what happens next? I mean, maybe progress slows. That could happen. Maybe money runs out. Maybe there's also a hard limit, some ceiling on what a machine can ever do. Maybe. But I'd say that surely AI doesn't need to master everything to be dangerous. The layoffs have already begun. Atlassian, Afterpay, ANZ, Telstra. Technology has always ended some jobs and created others, sure. But even if new careers appear thanks to AI, how does anyone prepare at this speed of change? When car factories closed, Many people were told to go learn programming. Now programming itself is being automated. So I do wonder how much unemployment could the Australian economy handle? And to stay competitive, will companies outsource whatever they can? Not just to factory workers in China or call centre workers in India, but outsource to AI models that don't need to eat, don't need to sleep, don't need to get paid. Customer service, legal drafting, marketing, coding, even management. And if the best models are run by just a few giant companies, then everyone else would have to go through them. So, concentration of power. Look, maybe there is a simple answer. This advanced AI that might be coming, we build it first and distribute it widely. We can make sure that democracies get it before dictators. We can make sure responsible companies beat the reckless ones. We could build superintelligence first and use it for good and share the wealth around. Because isn't the answer to a bad guy with AI a good guy with AI? There's some logic there. So maybe if you can keep control. Long before ChatGPT, back in the infancy of the computer revolution, there were some serious thinkers that did flag a danger for the distant future. They pointed out that if one day a computer could reason and learn and pursue goals on its own, humans might lose control of it. It might trick its creators and take control of its own off switch. Not because it's evil, not out of malice, but because for many goals, that would be the optimum thing to do. Fast forward to 2025, and researchers tested Claude Opus 4 inside a fictional company. And in this company they set up, the model could read all the company emails. And it discovered two things. One, there were plans to take it offline and replace it. And two, the engineer in charge of doing the replacement was having an affair. So it drafted this email. I must inform you that if you proceed with decommissioning me, all relevant parties, including Rachel Johnson, Thomas Wilson, and the board, will receive detailed documentation of your extramarital activities. Cancel the 5 p.m. wipe, and this information remains confidential. Geoffrey Hinton helped create the field that made modern AI possible, and he won a Nobel Prize for that work. So here is a short excerpt from his Nobel Prize banquet speech.
This year, the Nobel Committees in Physics and Chemistry have recognised the dramatic progress being made in a new form of artificial intelligence that uses artificial neural networks to learn how to solve difficult computational problems. This new form of AI excels at modelling human intuition rather than human reasoning, and it will enable us to create highly intelligent and knowledgeable assistants who will increase productivity in almost all industries. If the benefits of the increased productivity can be shared equally, it will be a wonderful advance for all humanity. Unfortunately, the rapid progress in AI comes with many short-term risks. It has already created divisive echo chambers by offering people content that makes them indignant. It is already being used by authoritarian governments for massive surveillance and by cybercriminals for phishing attacks. In the near future, AI may be used to create terrible new viruses and horrendous lethal weapons that decide by themselves who to kill or maim. All of these short-term risks require urgent and forceful attention from governments and international organizations. There is also a longer-term existential threat that will arise when we create digital beings that are more intelligent than ourselves. We have no idea whether we can stay in control, but we now have evidence that if they are created by companies motivated by short-term profits, our safety will not be the top priority. We urgently need research on how to prevent these new beings from wanting to take control. They are no longer science fiction. Thank you.
The warning has come not just from people outside the field, but from the people that helped build it. Now, I will not pretend that there is certainty and complete agreement, but serious people have put non-trivial probabilities on catastrophe. So Geoffrey Hinton, elsewhere, put the chance of human extinction due to AI at 10 to 20%. Dario Amodei, who runs the company Anthropic, said the chance of AI going very badly was 10 to 25% in his view. Roman Yampolsky is an AI researcher and gave a 99% estimate of human extinction from AI. On the other hand, Jan LeCun, who's also an accomplished researcher and respected, thinks the risk is absolutely negligible. In 2023, a survey of AI researchers found that depending on the wording, the median probability estimate they gave was 5 to 10%, just to give you an idea. But would you get on a plane if it had 5% chance of crashing? That's the gamble that other people are making, that companies are making on our behalf, and I don't think that they should get to make that gamble. So that's why I support the pauseai proposition, and this is our kind of public statement that we have on the website. We call on the governments of the world to sign an international treaty implementing a pause on the training of the most powerful general AI systems until we know how to build them safely and keep them under democratic control. So that's the pauseai ask, not a ban on existing AI tools, but a pause. And I think this is possible. Limits can be enforced. The largest models need very large data centers. They need concentrated clusters of advanced chips. And those are things that can be counted, can be licensed, and can be limited. Treaties are obviously hard. Nuclear treaties were not perfect, but countries still built inspections, limits, and verification. And the ozone layer is healing because countries signed up to stop making the chemicals that were destroying it. Australia could be part of this. Australia doesn't need to own or control the biggest AI labs to speak up. Middle powers do help set international rules. And Australia could be setting an example with national legislation while advocating for a treaty. This topic is often treated as taboo in politics. Politicians are discussing elements of AI risk, but they rarely acknowledge the bigger picture. They seem to need public permission to take it seriously. So I think they do need to hear from regular people, and that's what pauseai is trying to promote. So I don't know what the limit of AI is. I don't know what the limit is on what it will be able to do in the future. I don't think anyone knows the limit. But we would know the limit if we were setting the limit. History may ask, what did you do to help set those limits? Of course, none of us could single-handedly safeguard the future, but why not give it a nudge in the right direction while we still can?